Now, if there's anything in your presentation that you definitely don't want to have, and that is misspelled words, maybe the wrong words you're using, things like that. And so what I want to do is show you some of the tools that we have to make sure that you don't get embarrassed by what you're presenting because you did it wrong, you spelled it wrong, you used the wrong words, what have you. Okay, so we're going to go over that and also talk about printing. So, so without further ado, let's first of all look at spelling and grammar. Okay, if I go throughout my presentation, let's say for this first or the second page here, you'll notice that we have something in here where it's got this blue underline. Now that blue underline is telling you that you've got kind of a grammar or a punctuation type error. And in this case, we've got company, comma, space, but, be as concise as possible. What we can do with that is we can do a right click on that, all right? And you're given some choices as to what to do. You could either say just remove the comma, right? Or you're going to say company but, which is what that is. So we click onto that. I'm going to go over here to the next slide here. And maybe the next one here, there's some more. Now in this case, we see the red underline. That means we've got a misspelling, right? So you can actually just do a right click on it. So usually when you're doing your presentation, you kind of run across these and you're correcting them on the spot. You're usually not going back to it. But so I'm just kind of doing it after the fact. But usually most people will, as they see these happening, they'll go back and they'll do a right click and they'll say review those, and it'll be this one right here, and that fixes that one. Now if you chose to ignore this and you wanted to just have a real quick way at fixing these without having to go from slide to slide to slide, what you can do instead is just go over here to the review tab, go over here to spelling, right? And that will bring you to the next one in line here. And here we've got competition. Looks like this is a good one here. So we just click on that's the one we want there. Now, it also gives you kind of a definition of the word as well. So this helps in situations where you use the wrong word. And that can be kind of embarrassing as well. We'll talk about that when we get to the source. But at this point, what we want to do is just fix it. So we'll say this one here is what we want. We'll say change. And now it takes us off to the next one. And there's opportunities. There should be opportunities. So I click on there, hit change. And the other thing too, they do have a change all. And what that means is that if there are more spelled exactly the same throughout the presentation, it will automatically fix those without stopping and having you do each one of them, right? By doing that one. So on this one, it should be is, not is, right? And this is always a real good one, even though one word, right? Not right. So there it is, change, and now it's complete. We hit OK, all right? Now going back, we did have another one of these grammar punctuation type errors here. We can do a right click on that and tell it what? It didn't come up right here for some reason. Let me just go back there again. Right click that. And I don't know. Look at that. Something's wrong. It's not giving me anything to choose from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I know the problem on this one is that comma, so I'll just go back in there, backspace it, and take care of it. So you have to kind of watch out for those too. For some reason, this is not a perfected feature of the program. It is a little flaky and so forth. And you really have to watch also for misused words. And that's what I want to talk about next. So let's say next now. So we're all done with spelling and grammar and all that. And now we're going to go back and we want to come up with alternate words for words that we already have. It might be that you were sitting there typing along and you're trying to think of a word that you want to use, but you just couldn't think of the word, but you came up with the closest words you could. And you figure what you'll do is you'll put that in there and maybe later on go back in there and swap out the word with the word that you couldn't think of at the time. And we'll pick a word out of random here. Let's just say the word growth. And you want maybe a different word for growth, all right? So what we can actually do is you point to the word, just kind of click onto it. You can just do a right click then. And you'll see down below here something called synonyms. And then they've got a number of different words. Now, if you don't really like any of the ones that they give you, you can actually just click onto thesaurus. It'll open up the panel and show you then other words for growth. All right, so in this case, you've got whatever you see here. We've got quite a few in here. Now, let's just say that the closest word you can think of would be maybe evolution. But you want to go a little bit more on that. Maybe look for another word for evolution, right? So all you have to do is just kind of point to the word, click it, and now it gives you ones on that. And you're sitting there saying, okay, I don't know. I don't really like any of those. So what I'll do is I'll go and hit my back button right here, right? That goes back. And I'm going to say that I kind of like the word evolution. So that's what I want to go with. So what we do here is we point to it. You'll get that little drop down arrow, and you'll tell it that you want to insert that word. And what it does, it replaces the original one there. So that's about as easy as it gets. Let's try this one more time. So let's go over, let's see, find another one here. Accomplishments, okay? That word is so overused. It's something that maybe another word might suffice for that. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll do a right click on accomplishments, all right? Go down to synonyms, and then we've got all these, undertakings, endeavors. So let's say that we like the word undertaking, so we'll just click onto that, and now that will replace that one. See, so that's another way of doing it, all right? All right, now another area I want to look at is doing what we call translating. And believe it or not, this program can translate any or all of your text that you have into any of up to, I think there's almost 50, if not more, different languages that you can translate into. All right, so it might be a situation where you're going to be doing a presentation and you've got a mixed audience, and what you'd like to do maybe is have each of your bullet points, or a few of them, different ones, whatever, in maybe some of their native languages, okay? So to give you an example of how this works, let me just kind of close that up there. Let's say that I wanted to take this text right here, okay? And I want to make that, let's say I'm going to change it into Spanish, okay? So I'm going to change it into Spanish. So what we'll do, or translate it, I should say. So what we'll do is we'll go over here to the Review tab, right? We'll go over here to Translate, all right? Our little panel opens up there on the side, all right? And it detected that this text was English, right? And in this case, it kind of defaulted to Tahitian, all right? Which is pretty cool, all right? Now, if I go and hit that little drop-down arrow, then I can go in there and I can find, you know, any language I want. So in this case, there's Spanish right there. I can click onto that, and there it is. And then all I have to do is go ahead and hit Insert, and voila. The only problem that you have with it is, depending on how you select it, I had selected the hard return that kind of separated this line from this line here. So I'm going to have to go back in there and hit the Enter key like that. All right. But let me show you another thing here. We'll do it with the first one now. So if I select this one, and I make sure that I don't go too far. If I just get just up to the line there, right? And what I'm also going to do on my keyboard is, if I hold down my Shift key, hit my left arrow key, I've removed the highlight that was on the invisible code that causes it to be there to be a line break to where it would include or have this now on the second line there. So we got that in there. Again, it's looking at this as being English, right? And down here, it automatically has come up with this. All I have to do is just hit Insert, and there we go. Of course, now it goes and does the opposite on me. I can't win. I'm just going to go to here, backspace that, and take care of that. Now, on the flip side, let's say that you've got certain areas in Spanish that you want to translate into English, right? So what you can do there is you can actually select this here, right? Now it says it's detected that it's in Spanish, and now what would you like to change it into? Well, we want to change it into English. So I'll go back up to the top here, and there's English. Click onto that. There it is. Hit insert, and there we go. And of course, my little problem here, I'll just go click right there, hit my enter key, and I've got that. So that worked out pretty good. Now it's showing that I've got success spelled wrong. I don't know about that. If I do a right click on it, nothing's really showing up there. All right, but then when I click away, it goes away with the red. So not too bad. Now another thought when you're talking about translating, let's look at the, let's find a line here, maybe this one here. Okay, so I've got two in here, right? What you can actually do is take this text here, all right? Copy it. So I'm just going to do a right click here and hit copy, right? And then I'll go to the end here, hit enter, and then I can go ahead and just do a right click and I can paste it, and I put that one in there, right? And then on this one here, I'll just go here, I'll select that, I will do a right click on that, hit copy, and go to here, right click it, and paste it in there. Okay, now, and I'll delete this. All right, so here's another thought. The other thought would be to have it in both English and the other language, right? So if I go and I select this here, of course it's detecting as English, go down to here, change this into, let's say, what would be a good one here? Let's say we'll go and do, we'll do Russian, all right? So if I click on a Russian, there it is in Russian, insert, there we go. Okay, and then I'll go in there and enter that in. Pretty cool. Then I can do the same thing with this one here, select that one, insert it, and there we go. And, you know, just to make it so where it's not real confusing, you might even go as far as maybe selecting this one here, going back into your home tab, maybe making that italic, or maybe even just changing the color a little bit, make it a little bit lighter. So right now it's kind of a, well, it's black, right? So we can maybe bring it to maybe something like that there, right? And we can actually do the same thing on this one here. Since we just picked that color, we can just click the face of there, and that makes it a pretty easy process there. So that's not too bad. So now you got like a multinational presentation. How about that, huh? And this is machine translation, which means it's not done by a human. It might not be 100%, but it does show you making an effort to include them more with their language, right? So not bad. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And I want to just talk about one other thing here, and that is printing, okay? Normally, when you put together a presentation, you're just going to be presenting it through your computer using some sort of like a projector, what have you, onto a screen, and that would be it. But if you wanted to maybe print a copy of this onto actual paper, or even onto, so that you can actually, you know, hand it off to somebody for approval, or maybe at least have it as a backup. So in case you go and do your presentation one day and for some reason the computer's not working right, at least what you could do is take your sheets of paper, hold them up in the air and say, here's the first slide, here's my second slide. I mean, that would be pretty sad situation, but you know, it will kind of save the day, if anything. But the other thing is that you might want to print them out because you want to maybe hand them off to your boss or to some colleague so that they know what is in your presentation. They have a hard copy of it, whatever. Then they might even go ahead. Maybe you're doing that because they're going to go and kind of make some, you know, scratch some things out, write some things in there, and then they'll hand it back to you. So you can do the old school collaboration, I guess, right? And on the other hand, maybe you want to put together your presentation and print it onto, believe it or not, old-fashioned transparency, so that you've got your overhead projector A lot of you probably don't even know what that is. It's kind of an old thing, right? But so you can actually print this to your project or to the transparency. So how would you do that? Well, how would you do in either case that? All right. Well, all you have to do is, it doesn't matter what slide you happen to be on. We would go back into File, all right? We would go back into Print, all right? There's your first slide. Now, the paper size, keep it in mind, is 8.5 by 11, or in this case, it's 11 by 8.5, so it's landscaped, all right? Now, I'm currently printing to the Adobe PDF, which is not what I want to do. I can click onto there, pick the printer that I want to use, all right? This one right here. Now you'll notice when you, aside from the fact that it's 11 by 8.5, the slide size is actually different from a piece of paper. I think it was like that 16 by 9, ratio, which is not exactly 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 8.5. All right. So this would probably not be the way you'd want to print it out. To fix that, all you have to do is you would go into your printer properties here. All right. You go over into the color area. All right, well, color for one. By the way, too, a lot of the times you might have the color turned off, and this might have been black and white. You would come into here and you would change that to, whatever it's called for your particular printer to make it go with that color. All right. And then what we also have on here, actually not here, I'm going to close that up. So I'm just going to hit OK on that. Okay. So that would get the color in there. But the thing about it not fitting right here, what we're going to do is down here where it says full page slides, if you click onto that, it gives you a number of different choices, one of which is the scale to fit paper. So if you click onto that, all right, then it kind of shrinks it so that the entire thing fits onto the page. So that's exactly what it's going to look like on a sheet of paper. Here's your sheet of paper. It's going to be centered right in there. Okay. The other little thing, if it makes any difference, you go in there, you can tell it you want to frame the slide, and that way you'll get the little frame going around it. That looks pretty good, all right? But then again, at this point then, you'd either print this to paper, or you'd remove the paper, put in your plastic, whatever they are, transparencies into the paper bin, and then all you'd have to do is go ahead and tell it to print, and this would print over and over again. Keep in mind too, speaking of the printer properties before, if you have a duplex printer, meaning it prints on both sides of the page, you probably don't want to be printing on a transparency on both sides of the transparency. It's not going to look too good. So in that case, what you do is you go back into printer properties. Well, actually, you can either do it here. You can either go to here and go to finishing, let's say, and tell it that you don't want, it'll usually be set for that. You'd say, okay, I don't want to print on both sides. You can either do that, or over here it says print one-sided. Normally it would say print on both sides. You just change that to print one-sided. So either one you want to go with. And then the other thing is, I don't know why you'd want to do it, but if you didn't want this to be in color, what you can do is you can go and change the color to this grayscale, do something like that. Or you could change it to pure black and white, which isn't much difference. But I don't think that would be something that you want to do. But that's how we get to paper. So either printing it to paper or printing it to your transparencies. Either way, that's what you would do here. Okay, so that's it. So hopefully you liked the video, and hope that you can use some of this information. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.